The Tournament of Power was the ultimate spectacle that we could have ever hoped for as a Dragon Ball scenario. Non-stop fighting with the most accomplished martial artists of the multiverse. But what if instead we tagged in a bunch of weirdos who probably wouldn't be anyone in the real world's first choice in defending the universe, but still have some really cool powers? Today, we got a shark to jump. Alright, Goku and Vegeta were busy, so we're working with the best we got. From Hiffle, we've got Ginyu, Goldo, and Babidi, and kinda Spike the Devilman, I guess. Janemba technically doesn't exist, so he doesn't get a halo. Monster Carrot should be dead, but since rabbits can apparently survive in space, he's just been chilling on the moons. Then we have Arale, who is really just a cheat code disguised as a child. My favorite thing to eat, and the only one who any of us should have any semblance of faith in, Satan. Let me I didn't mean that. The world champ. In no strict order, this is what would need to happen for Universe 7. First of all, we have one participant here who literally knows nothing about fighting. Oolong's goal is going to be to go unnoticed for the entire 48 minutes of the tournament and provide a solid distraction whenever possible. Since he can transform for 5 minutes at a time before needing a 1-minute break, we're going to plan this out very specifically. Babidi's just going to be sitting back and low-key coaching the best he can. If Oolong just chills in his wizard barrier, he actually has a pretty good chance not taking much damage. After all, even when Vegeta used his final explosion trying to defeat Majin Buu, it still didn't get destroyed. If you're unaware of who Monster Carrot is, he's a rabbit who transforms people into carrots by touching them. That's about all there is to know. In Dragon Ball, he was often easily able to do this by offering a humble handshake. I don't think Jiren, Top, Caulifla Hit, or many others would go for this or even bother slapping his hand away. Kale, Kaba, and so many others would definitely offer the courtesy. Nevertheless, in particular, I have one other silly rabbit in mind. Knowing that he likely only has one shot at this before precautions are taken, Universe 7 would want to take out the most powerful fighter possible. This could be set up with some trash talk before the tournament begins. Something that would make Dispo charge him with a sock to the face, inadvertently turning himself into a carrot in the process. Babidi could prevent his Universe 7 counterpart from being thrown from the battlegrounds with his magic. Something probably like his wizard barrier, but would know the jig is up. And there's no way the several fighters who just saw a rabbit turn another rabbit into a carrot are just gonna let that go. Being the sadistic flea he is, he'd hurl the villain at the nearest opponent, probably just some nobody who's not paying attention, to secure one more disqualification. Alas, this would be the end of the Marshmallow Man, as someone would promptly take him out with a ki blast. It kind of goes without saying that the gag character, all-around logic hacker, known as Arale, would literally just be jumping from foe to foe, quickly getting 2 or 3 ring-outs from the weaker fighters, and anger a bunch of others before running into Batamo. With one punch, it sent her scorching through the emptiness of space, guaranteeing her to land outside of the fighting area, only for her to circle the entire universe to kick him in the back of the head. Even though Batamo can't take damage using his Batamo shield, he can still be physically moved by the impact itself. Filler or not, she was still able to beat up Vegeta with zero effort because the rules simply don't apply to her. The only thing that she could be defeated by is the writer of her story. With that being said, I'm gonna pull a double reverse and say her kick sends Batamo around the universe, causing him to inadvertently slam back into her, sending her out of the ring instead. The combination of Ginyu and Goldo is going to be the biggest trump card Universe 7 has in their deck, but it's going to require a good deal of planning. It's obvious from the start that the captain has his eyes on Jiren's body. Presumably in only one way, but as we know, Goldo isn't the only fighter capable of manipulating time. If Hit saw this ability, he would for sure go out of his way to make sure he is the only one who can use these techniques. While I think it would be better if Goldo could just invite people inside of his little time space where only he can move. He's never previously been known to be able to do that. And as much as I like the idea of him getting on Ginyu's shoulders like a little space jockey, they're gonna have to get Jiren another way. While not completely blowing his cover, Babidi is going to try to possess Hit. I don't believe he'd actually be able to succeed due to Hit's immense strength. As we saw with Vegeta in the Buu arc, Shin seems somewhat confident he should have been able to fight it off. But if it can affect him just a fraction of how intensely it affected the Saiyan Prince, then Ginyu is going to get as close to Jiren as possible and charge up his body change ability. Right before he fires it, Goldo is going to freeze time and do whatever he can possible to get Ginyu in front of Jiren, and also shut the Gray's eyelids in the process. This change in position and unplanned blink will offer just the time needed for Ginyu to successfully steal the most powerful body in the tournament. Of course, Ginyu won't be able to access the majority of Jiren's strength, but he'll still be way stronger than he was previously. My only question is what happens after he Falcon punches him out of the ring? Will he be sent to the Universe 7 bench, giving Ginyu an opportunity for some trickery? Or assuming the Grand Priest, angels, and even some gods of destruction wouldn't be fooled, would he just be sent to his own bleachers? I'm gonna go with the first one because it's more fun. But since Jiren, like many of the characters, can use telepathy, he wouldn't hesitate in letting Top know what's happened. Here forward, Universe 7 would become the priority of his focus. But little does he know, he would be the next to be taken out of the tournament. At this point, Babidi is going to try to possess as many people as possible, a lot like how he did in Dragon Ball Multiverse, if you're familiar. Anyone stronger than, say, Buark Vegeta is going to be able to fight it off, but anybody who is both weaker and impure is going to be joining Universe 7 right here. In all reality, it isn't very many. We're just going to take an educated guess on who all this would affect and who would be taken out by him. This is also going to put an M on Goldo and Spike. But since Carrot is eliminated, Ginyu is Jiren, and Janemba is about as strong as Majin Buu, I'm going to leave them as they are. This won't give them much of a raw power boost, but will help them in the same way like Spokovic and Yamu. So like, reverse anti-neck-breaking stuff. Babidi trying to possess everyone also has an ulterior motive, bringing us to Spike the Devilman. Spike was introduced at Fortune Teller Baba's tournament and has a pretty OP ability of his own. Using what he calls the Devil Might Beam, he can exploit his opponent's negative thoughts, no matter how faint, and convert them into an energy beam of immense power. It amplifies any dark thought of anger, malice, or aggression, and causes it to expand until his opponent's heart literally explodes. Though you may be wondering what Top, the leader of the Pride Troopers, champion of justice, has to do with this. Well, as unlikely as it may seem at first, to put it bluntly, Top isn't as pure as Kid Goku. While the argument itself can be made in the lone fact that he's the future destroyer of Universe 11. Upon accessing his destroyer form, dude straight up tortured Frieza. He could have just eliminated him, but he acted with intent malice to punish him instead. Babidi tried to possess everyone at the Tournament of Power, not believing he would ever succeed, but simply to discover who was strong, and who had even the tiniest amount of evil in their heart. During the very few seconds Top would be fighting to keep control over his body, Spike would power up his Devil Might Beam, and Goldo once again with his Time Freeze abilities would put him exactly where he needs to be to kill the future God of Destruction. Of course, killing is prohibited in the tournament, so this would also eliminate Spike. The Grand Priest would see this as a cut and dry intentional act, a decision of pure desperation knowing the stakes. Spike would be eliminated, but I don't believe the Grand Priest would want him erased for this misdeed. Looking over now to Janemba. Given how easily Buu bodied Basil at the Zeno Expo, I don't think it's wild to say Janemba, who's pretty much a movie clone variant of Buu, would have many problems with either Basil or Lavender. Probably not Bergamo either. However, something I didn't really see people talking about in the comments, Janemba really doesn't have to even fight to be one of the most useful fighters of Universe 7. All he has to do is place a portal under his opponents in the other side of the ring. At this point in the battle, there are only a handful of warriors who'd be able to stop him. Now, not everybody on the screen was taken out by Universe 7. Some just naturally fell due to the flow of battle with the other universes, but I'd go as far to say is that he could take out Ribrian, the Trio de Danger, and one of the Universe 6 Namekians during his rampage. Let's say Polina. I mean, he'd try to use his stretchy arms, but he's probably gonna need to regrow those arms when he appears back in the spectators area. Leading us to the man you've been wanting to hear about this entire video, Mr. Satan. Not evil enough to be possessed by Babidi, has no gimmick abilities, but when he becomes a bumbling mess, he rolls a 20 on luck every single time. By the time the tournament's halfway over, his white pants would surely match his brown shirt, but he is still in the ring. He'd get thrown around by the various ki blasts, not even being able to see most of the other contestants due to how fast they're able to move, until fumbling to the feet of Magetta. The great metal man raises his fist to squash our world champ, as he curls up into the fetal position and cries that he doesn't want to get turned into mashed potatoes by some stupid-looking kid's toy, delivering a major blow to his feelings. Wondering why he stopped, it wouldn't take Hercule long to figure out his foe's weakness. He would bully and berate him all the way to the edge of the ring, before closing his eyes and shoving him off with all of his strength. Mr. Satan would get at least one defeat in this tournament. Unfortunately, this acts as a bit of a double-edged sword, perhaps even sharper on the opposite end. This would also reveal the weakness to Janemba. We saw in Fusion Reborn that his weakness is the same as the barrier Pikkon is tasked with destroying. He finds out that insulting it does a much better job than attacking it, and we see that he doesn't even have to insult the barrier directly. Just saying negative things about anyone around it seems to do the job. Long story short, this is where Janemba takes a seat. Let's give the credit to Otamo. He's still in the fight. After all of the events previous, the biggest threat to Universe 7 is only Hit, and possibly select remaining members of the Pride Troopers, who would be well aware of the Jiren situation by now, many being eliminated trying to avenge him. Majin Guldo and Ginyu continue to work their way through anybody they can, even managing to take the timid Kale by surprise with their Time Freeze Haymaker combo, at least if they don't invoke her Berserker form. More importantly, this eliminates the possibility of a Patara fusion. Although Caulifla and Kaba could put on a good show, Ginyu has had decades of experience in battle, and now possesses a body that even at its weakest is still probably stronger than either of them. Though someone would at last take notice of their time manipulation spamming, with only minutes remaining in the tournament, he would watch his Saiyan comrades launch outside of the ring. It's down to Universe 7 and Universe 6. Lucky for him, he's not alone. He still has Dr. Rhoda! Okay, he's alone. In the anime, Jiren and Hit had a pretty good fight. Given Ginyu hasn't tapped into Jiren's full strength, Hit has an extremely heavy advantage here. As the assassin quickly puts Ginyu on the back foot for the first time today, it's only now that he realizes that Guldo has been using time-based abilities. This guy isn't half as powerful as the others made him out to be. Now that he thinks of it, that Ginyu guy was sitting with Universe 11 when they got erased. He's over 1,000 years old, been all over the universe. He's seen this body swap ability before. But if he did it once, that means he could probably do it again. First things first, he needs to get rid of the little time jockey. However, Babidi doesn't plan to make it easy on the hitman. He uses his magic to distract him with possession attempts over and over again. Rushing over to Babidi, he doesn't hesitate and shatters the wizard shield. The magic user is no match for the assassin's combination of power and speed, and he is effortlessly cast down from the ring before he even realizes what's going on. Guldo passes out from oxygen loss, and things finally get real for Oolong when he falls over the edge, I guess. Now it's just the battle-worn Ginyu and the ever-confident Hit. Naturally, this is when Hercule decides to get brave. Seeing how bad of condition his final teammate's in, he starts to rush over to show the multiverse what it means to be a world champ. But wait, final teammate? Looking over at the bench, 6 of them have been eliminated. And if he and Ginyu are 2, and Guldo technically counts as 1 still, whatever happened to their 10th fighter? So now I reveal to you, the viewer, the secret fighter. We've saved the best for last as the mystery 10th fighter is Goku. I mean, Zamasu. I mean, Bacterian. No, but really, it's Zamasu. Actually, let's go to the wheel. On this wheel, there's literally every Dragon Ball character to ever exist. All the way from Turtle to Golden Frieza or Justin Chatwin. With no exaggeration, there are exactly 1,512 different characters it could be. For the fates of Universe 7. Puehringer! Sweet, I could work with that. As Puehringer is summoned, and having learned English during his time on Earth, there's only one member of Universe 7 clutch enough to know how to use Puehringer to get the win. While Mr. Satan and believe it or not Raleigh have seen how the Dragon Balls work. Even though disqualified, we see the gods barking orders the entire Tournament of Power in the anime and the manga. Ergo, it would not be against the rules for Oolong to be the one to step up and wish for panties. But in another timeline, and wish for Hit to be transported 100 feet to the left. And then wish for panties. Leaving us with only one question. With their victory assured, did this team of nobodies really earn a more decisive victory than even Goku could offer? In all reality, of course not. The battle would never play out like this in a million years. Sure, it's possible, but if we're taking this seriously, all it would take is a powerful warrior like Dispo or almost anyone from Universe 6 to power up and send everyone but Janemba and Babidi, and if the writers permitted Arale, out of the ring. Unless it's her own anime, manga, or story, Arale would be written out before actually winning because her writer is literally the only thing she has to worry about. And while Janemba and Babidi could actually be a really dangerous combo, that wizard barrier thing that I mentioned earlier in the story, it did keep him alive during Vegeta's final explosion. But at the same time, Piccolo is able to break it with a focused, point-blank attack, which is what got Babidi into that situation to begin with. Sure, he could wreak havoc for a while, but once the fighters become aware of what a danger he is, it would likely be very easy to get him out of the ring, especially since Janemba has no reason to protect him like Majin Buu did. Speaking of which, the former would be amazing in a tournament like this given his portal ability. He's more or less just a rabid beast of negative energy. Again, the best fighters here would likely be able to manhandle him without much issue. I stopped doing what if videos years ago because I don't find this more analytical version more fun to write. At least not anymore. And that really seemed to be the theme that the fandom was going for. For instance, since we never canonically saw Babidi possess multiple people, I already know a large group of people are going to dislike that I allowed him to do so. To me, the entire point of fiction, especially fan fiction, is to find the balance between something exciting and interesting, or even just silly like the premise of this video, and put it against something else that's unexpected, that could possibly happen, though likely wouldn't happen in the official series, but still falls way short of going outright crazy like having Rambo show up or something, which was an actual fanfiction I read in the early 2000s. When I think of creating original Dragon Ball scenarios myself, I want to approach it with my own vibe and voice. If I heard Quentin Tarantino was going to write a Dragon Ball story, I want to see Quentin Tarantino's Dragon Ball, not his imitation of Akira Toriyama's. But I've rambled enough if you've stuck around this long. I don't really have anything to say from here, so I'll just leave you with these words. Potato Dorito, butter nacho.